Hello, welcome back to the channel for our Wrestling Weekly podcast. Haven't seen any of our other videos, please go and check them out. Now, first of all, let's discuss what everyone has been wanting to talk about or has been talking about. CM Punk. The incident involving CM Punk going backstage, working with Fox, in talking about WWE SmackDown.
Yeah, basically that's the main thing. Too many people are getting onto the fact that Punk is back in WWE. No, Punk has signed, the deal he signed is with Fox for the backstage TV show.
At first he has, but will he eventually go back to WWE and wrestle at Mania?
Possibly, but at the same point, it's the intriguing element of, we all know Punk speaks his mind. We now get to see next week which side he's gonna be on, basically.
But Punk did say originally he wouldn't even work directly for WWE.
But at the same point, this has been speculated for ages since they announced the backstage TV show. A couple of weeks afterwards, they did say that they were trying to get Punk on board, so it's not that big a surprise. But at the same point, from what's being said, there was only one person that knew he was going to be appearing on for the people that were on stage, and that was Renee Young. So basically trying to say that the reactions he got on the show, because even Paige was like, she thought she was being ribbed when his music hit. She's like, yeah, is this for real and all this sort of thing. So, yeah, like you say, it's a case of, is it going to develop into something else?
I think it'll develop into a match in WWE eventually.
Yeah, but at the same point, another thing that people are going about, Survivor Series, next weekend, it's in Chicago. Same point, even if he's come back to wrestle again for WWE, even for Vince's standards, getting him back into the fold and getting him into a program with a week to go is a bit short flipping notice. So I don't think he may make an appearance at Survivor Series, but I think people just got to accept that he won't be wrestling on the show.
And new developments in the rumours or the news, wrestling news, that he was offered a big mega deal to join All Elite Wrestling. Supposedly he was offered a deal by WhatsApp by Cody, but take that as you want to, because I've heard rumours that he were messaging, but a deal wasn't announced by text or WhatsApp, whatever you call it.
Yeah, and then apparently he had a face-to-face with Tony Khan, or Tony Khan got in touch with him as well. But the rumours going around is that Punk was after a mega money deal. So you'd imagine if he was after that if that is true from AEW, then again, the rumours are if Punk is to sign a contract with WWE, he wants Brock Lesnar money.
Yeah.
And is Vince really going to fork out that sort of money? He might do, but at the same point, I don't think he's made... I mean, yeah, he's got money, but has he really got enough money to be paying two so-called superstars?
Would you say CM Punk's actually that good now? He hasn't wrestled for so long. Yeah, he's had fights in MMA or UFC, whatever you want to call it.
Well, if you want to call them fights. He turned up.
Yeah, he turned up. But is his heart still in the wrestling? Because he has had horror movies. He's done a few horror movies, hasn't he?
Yeah, he is doing movies at the moment. And at the same point, if he's going to come back, the fans have obviously wanted it from the second he left. But at the same point, when's Vince McMahon ever listened to the fans? If he's only doing it for the fans, he ain't going to fork out that much money for him anyway, just to please the fans.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but it was getting a bit annoying hearing CM Punk's name mentioned every time. Is he going to show up for AEW? Is he going to show up for WWE? Is he going to return to wrestling?
It got... The main annoying thing was the fact of the fans at every show or most shows, it seems to be, they were doing that chant to the fact that even the McMahons themselves were throwing it back at them at points, or even acknowledging it and just being like, yeah, just basically rub it in the faces like he ain't coming back sort of thing.
Yeah, but is he still a top draw in the business as a wrestler? As a wrestler, I'd say no.
At the same point, yeah, when back in the day he was one of the best wrestlers the company had.
He was, but he's not wrestled for a while, so...
Ring rust. If he was to step back foot inside a ring now, he obviously would have some ring rush, you'd imagine. You wouldn't expect him to come back and straight away be able to get back on the horse. Unless, you don't know. If he's got in-ring return in mind, then you'd imagine he's been training as well. So, again, at the moment, it's all hearsay. As we say, the only thing that is for certain is that he's going to be doing backstage. He's confirmed he's going to be there next week. And quite frankly, won't know until next week anyway, because backstage, it's one of these, it's a Fox programme. I mean, it must be affiliated slightly with WWE, but I think it's more a Fox-oriented show, so Punk has got more room to manoeuvre there, so we'll find out next week. If he starts criticising the product, then we'll know that he's just come back just to do that. If he starts doing the usual suck-up element that all WWE employees do on shows like that, we'll know, yes, he's coming back, sort of thing. But at the moment, I think he's just coming back just as this backstage role sort of thing, and only time will tell if he's actually going to return to in-ring action.
I'll have to wait and see for that one.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the take on CM Punk.
Yeah, enough said about that one. I think you've all heard enough about that. Well, so have we, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, talking point, now let's go on to the main talking point of the AEW's pay-per-view Full Gear, where MJF cost Cody the world title by throwing in the towel as he was in the Lion Tamer submission and eventually kicking him in the groin, basically. Turning on his friend who he's known for a long time.
But again, just like with wrestling over the years and the internet, this has been talked about for the past month or two anyway.
It's been talked about, but no one thought, I didn't think it was going to be this soon, to be honest. And the stipulation in that match was Cody would never go after the AEW world title ever again.
Which hopefully he's not going to try and weasel out of with the whole he got screwed element or something like that. Basically, if AEW want to be different, he needs to basically stick to that now. He can't go turn him back on his word sort of thing. He's lost. Okay, he got cheated out of it, but really, they've been going on so much about how... Well, not so much, but they have been hinted at the fact they want to be different with WWE. And if this was WWE, it would be the case of a couple of weeks, months down the line, this happened to any wrestling WWE, they'd be worming them way back into it, be using some loophole sort of thing. So, me personally, I feel now he's lost that, it basically needs to stick to his word. Not challenging for title again now.
It was good timing the way they did it, though. It was good how it happened, though. Everyone thinking MJF was on his side. You know, it worked.
Yeah, it just again, just with the internet itself, I just think the internet is just ruining it. Okay, like you say, it was a shock because it happened so soon, but at the end of the day, it probably would have been a bigger shock if it was a case of no one knew about a potential heel turn anyway. What
made it work even better is when that plant in the audience threw water at MJF as he was on the ramp. The look on his face just made the whole incident, basically.
I say it to myself, it's like, I'm not saying it's better, but when Balor did his heel turn, it's a fact of no one saw that coming. It was a big enough shock that he returned to NXT, but the fact of his heel turn... I'm not saying his heel turn was better, but again, I think there's a bit more room to manoeuvre if these sort of things got kept off the dirt sheets and the internet. Yeah, heel turns are good when they happen, but at the same point, some of them you know about, you don't know about them. Adds a little bit more to it.
Yeah, but MJF wasn't exactly a face. He wasn't a heel. He was like probably in Austin, but he was friends with Cody at the time, so you know he still had that persona with a heel, but not a face. Basically, he was all just on Cody's side.
But again, yeah, the heel turn, whether you expected it or not, like you say, it happened a bit sooner than expected. So yeah.
Then you had the Jon Moxley Kenny Omega Lights Out match, unsanctioned, which turned out to be a great match. Yeah, it wasn't for some people's taste. If some people didn't go up in the Attitude Era, they wouldn't have seen matches like that, basically.
Well, again, all you'd have to do in the Attitude Era was tune into EC. I don't know, was it as brutal as an ECW match?
I wouldn't say it was brutal, but wasn't as brutal.
I know the only spot I've seen is is it a suplex onto
barbed wire
bed or whatever it was.
That's why Kenny Omega wasn't scheduled to fight this week on Dynamite. Moxley was, but Kenny Omega wasn't.
Yeah, and again, I can understand why they do that, because obviously wrestling fans want to see a bit more edge. But as long as the matches are being done with the competitors' safety at mind, the last thing you want to be doing is putting your superstars at risk just to give the audience good moments, basically. But again, I would imagine if they're putting on a match like that, then yeah, obviously it would have had to have been safety checked firstly.
Yeah. And just going back to the match with Chris Jericho and Cody, when Cody actually had his head actually forced onto the ramp after doing a dive off from the ropes. Luckily, the doctor did say it, but luckily it continued the match. It was quite a big gash on the top of his eye, just above his eye.
This is not the first injury that's occurred, though, has it? I mean, as I say, I know us fans like the hardcore matches, but there seems to be
too much high risk.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, obviously the chair shot a couple of months back, that was dealt with at the time, but at the same point, it does seem that although they're trying to give the hardcore element, it's not fully safe because there is injuries. I mean, I know you can't avoid injuries most of the time, but again, it comes down to the fact of putting the body on the line a bit too much. And are they going through the moves properly, or is it just slip ups in the match or something? Because as we say, this is now second time now that Cody's been busted the hard way. Or is that just Cody putting his body on the line for the fans?
Obviously, that was for the fans.
But then again, you got to be careful with that, because shorten your career just to please the fans as well. Not saying it's a bad thing, but there has to come a point where it's like wrestling safe as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Tell you what I do like now though, is Awesome Kong's character with Brandy Rhodes. Darker side to her character. She can beat up the women, and then she just cuts a bit of hair off. She's got, I don't know, it's different, it's darker. It works with them two anyway.
Well, yeah, because to be fair, I don't think she's had a good rub of the green anyway.
No.
Because didn't she have a brief stint with WWE back in the day?
Yeah.
And basically, the character never caught on, but then she fell pregnant, didn't she, or something?
Mm-hmm.
But then, obviously, the miscarriage.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. I think she was a dominant force before she signed with WWE, so I suppose it's a good thing that they're putting her back.
They're building her up. She's not fought again recently, but they're building her up. And Brandy said a few months ago that she was taking, a few weeks ago, that she was taking the time away from Cody, not escorting him to the ring. So maybe this is what it's going to be, her and Awesome Kong teaming up. Whether Brandy will go back in the ring, or whether she will just be coming to the ring with Awesome Kong when she wrestles, I don't know.
But it looks like probably just segueing into a managerial role.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I'm not seeing any of her matches, so I don't know how good a wrestler she is in the ring anyway. If she is, sort of thing. Right, what else?
Talking about after the Full Gear pay-per-view on Dynamite, you get the explanation from MJF. You had Chris Jericho and MJF segment in the ring, which worked out to be wrestling gold. You had Jericho in the ring. MJF do a backwards and forth. You want me to join the Inner Circle? Do you want me to join the Inner Circle? You know, funny element, comedy to it. You know, MJF explained why he turned on Cody, saying Cody only cared about himself, which in a way I could sort of see, because MJF been there for Cody, but Cody wasn't actually thanking him for helping him out. You know, it's bits like that. You could see that's how they're building his MJF to turn on Cody. That's how they were building it that way.
Well, I could see that. Basically, yeah, Cody has been going off on his own. Prior to that, his winning run and all that sort of stuff. I can sort of see how that storyline works.
Yeah, he even comes down. Obviously, the medical staff and Scotty didn't want him to come to the ring. Because he weren't allowed to compete. He weren't cleared. Went 100%. So he runs down, starts to attack, but then get a debut. Wardlow debuted, who's been recently having advertisements for his AEW debut. Looks like he's working with MJF because he beats up Cody. Looks like he's with MJF. I don't know if MJF or Wardlow are going to be in the Inner Circle. That wasn't officially confirmed. Yeah, he hugged in the centre of the ring, MJF and Jericho, but he didn't say he was in the Inner Circle or he wasn't in the Inner Circle. So, but they are looking for new members in the Inner Circle, so maybe it'd be a good fit. I'm not too sure. But should be interesting to find out.
I suppose only time will tell with that one.
Another thing with the Young Bucks, Santana and Ortiz at the pay-per-view. Santana and Ortiz won, but Dynamite, they fueled the violence again with the feud. Fighting back to get to a segment where they're fighting backstage. Both tag teams. They get to the rampway. I think it was Matt or Nick Jackson was put through the stage, which brings out Brandon Cutler and Private Party to try and save them. Yeah, that feud's intensifying. So that's brought up a match next week. Private Party versus Santana and Ortiz in a tag match. You know.
Shall we move on to the storyline on Raw that still seems to be continuing?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, the whole love triangle,
yep.
which took an even worse turn this week. The fact that Lana decided to announce that she was pregnant, and the fact that she then admitted it was Rusev's child, which it wasn't confirmed at the time, but just from a brief thing that Lana said on the ramp after Lashley had taken Rusev out in the middle of the ring, basically she turns around and goes, "I can't believe that he believed I was pregnant." So we're now doing fake pregnancy angles. But side note with that one, apparently Rusev seems to be the driving force behind this storyline. Apparently, I don't know if he's come up with the ideas or okayed them, but he seems to be the main point of these storylines, basically.
Do you believe that, though?
Well, he's not come out to deny it, and I have seen activity on social media where stuff has been said regarding the storylines, and he's not exactly tried to quash it.
I know he was told by a fan that he should quit WWE and leave Lana, which made him reply to the comment to say, you know, it was my idea, you don't know nothing, or he was saying something to the person who was messaging him.
But again, there's been a few social media things with that, like Jack Hager getting in touch with him on social media and telling him he should jump across, basically. But yeah, as I say, there's been nothing nothing from Rusev himself to say he isn't in some way, shape or form okay or not okay with the storyline. And I say main point seems to be that he's basically okayed the storyline sort of thing, but at the same point I've not heard anything from the Lana side.
I just don't like the storyline whatsoever, to be honest.
I know. A lot of fans aren't. I mean, again with the social media, apparently. Well, there was a fan on social media who sent him a message or put a message out like, "WWE, if you just want to drop the storyline, I'm okay with that." But then Rusev replied with, "No one cares what you think." So again, that just fuels the fire that he's just like, yeah, he's fine with the storyline. Again, there is a lot of fans that don't like it, but apparently on YouTube, the videos of this are getting quite a high number of views. So there's obviously some people out there that are liking it. And again, Vince sees that. It's like, well, fine, I'll keep going with it.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I don't know whether it's a good thing that they're keeping Lashley and Rusev from having a one-on-one match straight away, or it's a weird one. There are some feuds where it works, like back in the day where you had Vince and Stone Cold. That worked, them drawing it out until they had a proper match after a year and a bit. With this one, it just seems the fact they need to get a match out of the way sooner or later, because the longer they draw it out, it's like they might have good chemistry in the ring, but it just seems like the longer they draw it out, then they finally get a match, it might just stink the place out, and it's just like you just wasted that entire storyline. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that one.
Yeah.
Just needed to get that in
Now,
there.
yeah, let's go back to Dynamite with the main event of this week. Tag team title match, SCU, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky versus the Inner Circles, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Now, the ending, I wouldn't agree with the ending, to be honest. Scorpio Sky pinning the champion Chris Jericho, small package. I wouldn't have ended it like that. If you had SCU going to win the match, maybe you could have had Scorpio Sky pin Sammy Guevara, not Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho was undefeated in AEW. Now, technically, you can say he's been pinned, he's been beat. But would you really have the world champion, undefeated world champion, get pinned in a tag match when you've got another up-and-coming superstar, Sammy Guevara, who could have been pinned in the match and lost the match for him?
But then you just shoved him in there just so he can take the loss, protect the
I
champion.
know, but champion getting pinned, small package getting pinned to lose the match so you don't have the tag titles, don't win the tag titles. Does it work?
It shows the champion's got weaknesses.
Don't get me wrong, I like SCU. I just thought it might have been better Sammy Guevara getting pinned.
Yeah, but again, it comes into the way that WWE have been criticised from protecting the Reigns. I know obviously Jericho isn't the same as Roman Reigns back in the day, but there came a point where it's like fans were getting sick and tired of Reigns getting the victory all the time. Not you saying have his partner get pinned, but at the same point it just put that air of doubt that like maybe Jericho could lose his world title somewhere down the line, sort of thing. He's not.
Well, he wasn't happy because after the match he did like throw a tantrum, chairs, tables thrown onto the floor, guardrails on the floor. So maybe it's going to change his personality next week on Dynamite. Maybe is that the way they're going to play it? Change his personality, persona, so he gets more vicious.
Possibly, but at the same point, you see it all the time. Some superstars do lose the cool when they lose a match. I mean, yeah, obviously there's ways to go around it. That just seems like it's him just throwing a general temper tantrum
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it could lead to dissension within his group.
No, it's not going to happen anytime soon. They are a tight-knit group. I think they'll add members. Whether it's going to be MGF and Wardlow is another thing. But I think those two would be... Well, MGF would be a good member for the Inner Circle. But eventually he'll want to go for the world title once he's built himself up. Because he's that type of persona where... Personality where he'd want to go for the top title. But it's going to be good to see how the Inner Circle progress. Will Santana Ortiz eventually win the tag titles? But they've got a big feud with Young Bucks and now Private Party next week. But, whether the Young Bucks will get involved in that remains to be seen. We've also got an update on Dustin Rhodes' injury. He'll be back, I think, in about 3 weeks. He'll obviously come in to help Cody, won't he? To be honest. He'll have
maybe one of them's due a heel turn.
No, I can't see Dustin turning on Cody, to be honest. They've had a heel turn. He's already had one do it, MJF, so turn on him.
Maybe it's Cody's turn then. Can we move on to Impact then? Again, they're another one who've had a pay-per-view this week.
Oh yeah, we'll just had a pay-per-view just on like Impact Plus. We had the title match, Brian Cage, Sami Callihan rematch, which Sami Callihan won the match basically. It's decent, but it's not the main pay-per-views. It's just on Impact Plus. It was a bit of it's a
special attraction.
Yeah, smaller arena. Seems like a bit of a house show in my opinion, but maybe people will disagree on that. But it was decent enough. I won't classify as a pay-per-view as such. Probably an extra house show in my opinion. Any other news about wrestling you've got?
Just other main points for WWE side.
I know Shazza McKenzie has just come out recently, because she has had a dark match in AEW, that she'd like to be signed full-time in the wrestling business, because she's travelling all the way from Australia to wrestle in AEW, and they've not offered her a deal yet. It'd be nice if they did offer a deal. She's actually a decent prospect, decent talent, to be honest.
Yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, news from WWE side, did get a title change this week. They've gone back to the old day, or should we say the new day, SmackDown Tag Champions again. Whether that's been done just to give Kofi another title run again, or whether the plan was to put the titles on them, but with Xavier Woods before he had his injury. So, as it stands, they've been obviously slipped into this triple threat tag team match at Survivor Series, although Revival have got a rematch this week on SmackDown. So are we going to get a case of hot potato with titles? Also on SmackDown, potential next feud for Bray Wyatt or The Fiend. He attacked Daniel Bryan backstage, so maybe Bryan Fiend next Universal title feud coming up.
One thing I don't get, NWA
Yeah.
Power at the end, the massive brawl at the end of NWA Power this week. It's like, then you had Camilla coming out, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know what the brawl was made of. It's just a mass brawl at the end. It's like, don't know where they're going with on that one.
Maybe just a brawl for the sake of a brawl. I mean, they haven't got a pay-per-view coming up, have they? Because that seems to be the go-to thing with the last
Yeah,
show.
it's going to be Into the Fire, but I don't think it's any. I think it's in December. I think it's December 14th, if I remember rightly. And not quote me on that one.
But again, unless it's just a case of, because at the moment there does seem to be a few shows that are having little flipping battles after. Because Raw have had one the past last week there's been brawls on NXT. It's just a case of there's so many brawls going around on the WWE side anyway, because Survivor Series, and they've got to go. Don't see why they have to go with this whole brand warfare thing. I thought the whole point was we've had the brand split. They're supposedly on different channels now, so there are own shows. There's no wildcard rule, but the first so-called Big Four pay-per-view we've got to go back to the Raw versus SmackDown, but now we've got NXT involved as well. So it was getting stale anyway, having Raw versus SmackDown and all those sort of matches, but now they add NXT into it and you've got the triple threat element into it. It just seems to be... but again, Vince and his lazy booking. Just basically, got nothing for Survivor Series, so let's put all the champions against each other in matches. And, But again, it comes back to the fact of, like I say, got a takeover event as well that weekend. So you're going to have wrestlers from NXT fighting on the takeover and then on Survivor Series as well. But so like I say, it just seems to be the way at the moment. There seems to be brawls being put around left, right and centre.
I think the wrestling business has changed since the 90s, hasn't it? It's changed a lot.
Well, this is it. I mean, the viewing figures at the moment don't seem to be showing that it's... I don't know if it's right to say it's not as popular as it was. Because, again, with the many ways that you can watch the shows now.
Yeah.
But the viewing figures don't seem to be showing much. Am I right in thinking that AEW are getting, around the 1,000 mark, is it, every week? Or are they getting more?
No, they're getting you got about 800 and something thousand last week's.
So, yeah. Oh, sorry, 1,000.
I was going to say.
Yeah, 1,000, yeah.
No, they're not getting 1,000.
But, again, it's like, they're obviously a new company trying to come in and be the next big thing sort of thing. But, again, you look at it the other side, Raw's viewing figures keep dropping, but they're still in the high million to low 2 million.
But they're going to be, aren't they? Because they've been around for so long. And they were like, practically, there was only one dominant company for so many years, WWE, basically, when they bought WCW. So they are going to get that fan who goes, I'm sticking with WWE. That's all I know. I forget about AEW, forget about Impact, NWA, all the others. WWE's the one I love, the one I watch.
Yeah, but on that argument then, you've got nearly 1 million more people choosing that.
Why do you always go back to WWE is beyond me when Vince doesn't respect his own audience. But they still seem to crawl back and watch. When you've got AEW listening to the fans for what they want in a business, they'll gain more fans eventually because they've only been around, not even been a year yet, so there's time. But
I know with that, but on the other side, it's not like they've suddenly appeared. They've had, 3 shows?
3 pay-per-views.
Still had the name out there.
I'm
not saying they're not going to gain, but for not even drawing in 1 million viewers when they were touted as being the next.
I think eventually they will be.
But again, like I say, it's going to take time. It just seems like the way they were going about it, you'd expect them to be getting more than...
They've done well starting up the business from scratch. Actually, from the ground up, basically.
But again, it may be the fact of fans are just sticking with the WWE products. They might be thinking it's going to change, or like I say, some have loyalty. I don't know. It still comes down to the fact. It's like, you'll hear, there's people going to the arena and flipping, either starting AEW chants or trying to cause disarray with AEW
but
stuff.
But they've been turned away as well, though. Wearing the t-shirts, you can't even use your own sign. You get your sign taken off you. You're only allowed to sign in what they wanted to have on.
Yeah. But then it's a case of they're still getting the fans coming in as well, so it's... Again, it all depends. It all depends what the wrestling fan is looking for. A lot of people maybe jump to the conclusion that fans want a certain thing from wrestling. Maybe there's wrestling fans out there who, even though WWE is criticised, they just seem to like what's being put on by them anyway. Maybe they don't want what AEW is offering. Maybe that's for the more traditionalist wrestling fans. Maybe wrestling fans have changed over the years. They might just be...
I think a lot of people gave up on wrestling when Vince bought WCW. Because you had a lot of proportion of wrestling fans who did tune into Monday Nitro and watch WCW. So I think that proportion of fans drifted away from wrestling, and some of them haven't gone back
and
to wrestling.
Maybe that's a reason why there's not as many people watching AEW as people may have thought. Maybe it's just the fact of WCW died a death, then TNA was supposed to be the next company to challenge. Maybe it's just the fact that people just see it as like it's just another company trying to compete with Vince. Eventually it's going to fail, or they think it's going to fail eventually, so they're not going to try it. But again, who knows the mind of individual fans, sort of thing. As I say, some might just stick with the current product just because, like I say, even though it's being criticised, they like what is actually coming from it. Or again, just being drawn in by the one particular wrestler. Sometimes that can happen. You might watch a show just for one wrestler.
Yeah, what I don't like with certain fans is if they don't watch AEW or Impact or whatever, WWE, they criticise one show and just say how good their show is without even watching the other product, other wrestling companies. See, that's the sort of fan you don't want. Sort of wrestling fan you don't want. Criticise when you haven't even watched a certain show, but you just go, oh, it's rubbish, not good enough, that shows that company is better, does a better product. There's a lot of fans out there who do it.
Fans on both sides of the divide, to be honest, is probably... Obviously,
that's what I mean, fans on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean fans in general. I don't just mean one side, I mean fans in general.
But again, that's just the thing, and the WWE side of it will be the case of new company, so just slate it. And then or not just AEW, just this
wrestling fan in general.
The non-WWE side. I mean, to be fair, there might be your Impacts and your Power fans basically having a go at both.
Or New Japan Pro Wrestling as well.
Both, exactly. Not just the fact of AEW fans and
didn't
WWE
help
fans.
WWE's, well, Vince's. It didn't help Vince when he was trying to buy Noah from Japan and another Japan company. I can't remember what.
Dragon Gate was also
Dragon
mentioned.
Gate was mentioned, and trying to buy that as well. It didn't help matters.
But again, that's just the blindness of the fact of getting into the UK scene, and at the same point, NXT UK's not 100% success. Yeah, they've got a UK brand, but it's just the way they work. It's like, oh well, we've got our fingers in one pie in the English wrestling business.
Then try and get Japan, but it'd be even hard for him to get Japan because the fans, yeah, we've got loyal fans, but in America, UK, probably Germany, and Canada, but in Japan it's different. They didn't even want storytelling at one point in Japan. They just wanted actually pure wrestling.
Well, that's it. It is that thing of like, if you're gonna buy into a second country, then Japan's the wrong one. Because from a personal point of view, I thought Mexico would have been a better. Might not have been able to get it, but Mexico would have been a better scenario to go
one of the companies, AAA, AEW got the partnership with AAA, so you can't.
Oh no, I'm not saying in that case. I'm just basically saying when it comes to WWE as a whole, it's like, yeah, they've got not a partnership with England, but the WWE side of it seems to have quite a bit of a fan base in England. But then you've got Mexico as well, because of obviously just across the border, Canada. But at the same point, I don't see Canada as, because Canada's really sort of, it just seems to be tied in more with the American scene. If they're going to do it, I mean, again, obviously there's been rumblings of NXT Canada, or people have said, oh, maybe NXT Canada, but at the same point, Canada, it's only across the border, so I'd see more, even though they got a border with Mexico, I see it more with Mexico, because obviously Vince's fixation on trying to get the next Hispanic star. So, yeah, like you say, Japan is one of those niche ones.
To be honest, I didn't agree with him trying to buy Noah in Japan, to be honest. Trying to get the Japanese market. And he wants to try and take over the wrestling world, and he wants NXT in every continent.
Yeah, but then that comes to the fact of, I can understand from his point of view, but then it's, well, not
he wants NXT Germany as well, I read.
Oh, yeah, it's like you name the countries he's tried to have. I mean, there's not been as many mentions of having an NXT brand in countries, but like you say, a German one, we've got the Japan one. There was.
Well, we haven't got a Japan one, have we?
No, I'm just saying in the case of you got UK one at the moment, but Germany's been mentioned, Japan's been mentioned, there's been slight murmurs on Canada. I think the Mexico one was the one that was mentioned just after the UK one started. So
are people cottoned on now to Vince? Are people starting to realise that there is something else out there in WWE, that they don't need to have their company bought by him? Now that AEW, you can sort of say it's because of AEW, because they've helped the pay gap with wrestlers as well. They've sort of said, no, there's more than just WWE out there. Is that what people are starting to think now?
Yeah, possibly. But another reason with him doing it in his twisted mind is probably the fact of, I don't know about other companies, but when you think of it, WWE just tour all over the world. It's not just stateside. It's not just going over to Canada or Mexico or stuff like that. They'll still do near enough. Them, I mean, yeah, there's probably countries he haven't toured in recently, but when you figure it, a lot of the Asian countries, obviously they've just done the UK side of it this week and done Europe as well. So maybe in his twisted mind, it's like, oh, well, we tour these ones, so we have a relationship with them, so get in there to try and whatchamacallit.
Do you agree with other companies buying other promotions out for their own benefit? Not to help that company, but for their own benefit?
Not really. But at the same point, there's probably the same argument when Vince bought out a lot of the flipping territories, exactly. This is obviously it. He's obviously, again, another crazy thought he's probably had. I've done it with the territories, so why is it any different now to go global and just do it that way? I mean, again, there's probably some countries where he probably could manage it. But again, when it coming back to Japan, it's like, if you're going to buy into a country, then Japan's
not the one to go to.
The worst one. One of the worst, if not the worst one, to try and...
I'd say the worst.
Because it's like, let us say, it's like up to, decade ago, they were treating their wrestling shows as...
Yeah.
Maybe not real, but it was a case of there was more emphasis on clean finishes. It was only once you had the Bullet Club / Balor Club come into it and start doing the sort of more Western tactics in wrestling matches. Prior to that, they were more the case of wrestling is just, yes, it's okay, not emphasise word, but not a real sport in the sense of other sports, but at the same point, we want to try and give it a bit of validation by having proper contests with clean finishes, no shenanigans and all that sort of thing.
I think it's the most brutal, though. You do go through a hell of a lot, wrestlers. People say it's fake and all that, but you get yourself in that ring and half of that stuff will hurt. I mean, you see what's underneath a ring, underneath a mat in the ring. There's only a small piece of plywood, and what else is on top of it? Is
you got your wood, then you've got like a not gym mat, but sort of the gym mat material, and then obviously I think it's a cloth, and then the ring mat. So even so, I mean, three materials on top of the wood, but it's still not gonna be nice thing to be taking bumps in there.
And they still do high flying moves onto ramps. They're sometimes onto concrete. Tables, like you saw quite a few years ago with Hardcore Holly, what they can do to your back.
Oh yeah, Splinter's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But at the same point, you got
and the John Moxley and Kenny Omega mats wouldn't have helped their bodies. So, wrestling can be. People can say it's fake, but in another sense, it is. In who wins the matches. Yeah, you have a booker. That's decided. But then in another sense, actual in-ring accidents happen.
Yeah, but like you say, with the fact of the weaponry, Japan is, like you say, brutal. It's like
it is brutal.
The lighting tubes. The glass lighting tube, the bar. Were they the first ones to use barbed wire instead of ring ropes?
Yeah, but if you want to see hardcore matches, Abdul the Butcher, back in the day, have a look at his matches. Absolutely insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, you only have to look at the scars in his head to...
Well, there was matches sometimes where he would get, I think it's a fork he used to use. He wouldn't even tell his opponent. That's how bad he was. He wouldn't even tell his opponent that he was going to use the fork on them. And he would still stab them on the face, basically, in the match without the actual say-so. I think before matches, you are meant to tell the wrestler that...
Well, it's supposed to be choreographed.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, was that what New Jack uses inspiration? I mean, again, but to be fair, New Jack was a different type of extreme wrestler. He was just... Is insane the wrong word to use?
Yeah, well, Abdul the Butcher apparently had Hep C, so, and he infected a few wrestlers with it, without even telling them. So, he's not the first wrestler to do that, though, is he? Wasn't?
Bob Orton, was a wrestler at the time, but back in the day when Taker and Randy were feuding, when Randy was still coming up as the Legend Killer, they had that infamous Hell in the Cell match where Bob Orton bled, and then Taker didn't find out until after the match. He had Hep C, and rightfully he lost.
Rightfully, yeah.
He lost the plot on that one, because really...
Understandable.
It's like, really, you should be revealing that anyway. There's no excuse for not.
But some referees back in the day didn't even wear gloves in Abdul the Butcher matches.
In fairness, I think the gloves have only really become a referee's trait in the past decade or so. Anyway, it's not really that. I mean, it's been around for a while, but it's not been.
That would be the referee's fault. If they didn't want to wear gloves, it's their fault.
But again, maybe back in the day, didn't really think that much about stuff like Hep C and all that. Because again, it's probably that case of a wrestler they expect to really be telling you that sort of thing.
Would you say wrestling's more violent now, or was it back in the day?
Well, to be fair, I've not really watched much of Japan recently anyway, so I don't know what they're sort of putting on, because as I say, obviously they're the benchmark for violence. I mean, obviously there's a W side of it now. They've just basically gone away from the majority
They're just
of that.
PG.
Exactly. I mean, rightfully or wrongfully, they have got sides to it where you can sort of say, yeah, the right thing for them to do with certain incidents that have happened. But yeah, again, to take it completely out of the mix, I'm not saying you need every single show or every single main pay-per-view or special event to have hardcore matches, blood and all this sort of thing. But
some matches work for it, some matches don't.
This is it. Said back in the day, some feuds were made with having blood in it. I mean, yeah, you got into the point where sometimes it could just be the case of bleeding just for the sake of bleeding. But, yeah, Blood can add to a feud, but now it's just like there is some companies that just shy away from it too much. You may have it sometimes, but not all the time. Or, like I say, some companies... If there's some companies that have it all the time, then maybe they're just relying too heavily on it. There's got to be a...
Happy medium.
Exactly. Basically, yeah. Don't have it every single match or every single show, but basically, maybe just save it up for the main feuds, or the feuds that have got intensity to them, because yeah, Blood will add something to it. Just really shy away more from blood just for the sake of having blood, because the fans love seeing blood. But yeah,
especially when Eddie used to bleed.
Well, yeah, that's always a thing as well.
He had a blood transfusion in one of his matches.
Well, that was after he'd wrestled for 10 minutes or so while he was gushing blood, basically. But again, that's another reason not to have it all the time. I mean, I don't know whether it's still the case of sometimes their opponents will do the cuts, but I think nowadays as it's bleeding, it's more from the wrestlers themselves. And
yeah.
But you can't guarantee that they're not going to cut too deep.
I think wrestlers are protected more now than they were back in the day.
Oh yeah, as I say, with incidents that have happened over the past decade or two, there has been more emphasis on more medical exams, more doctors' examinations, not just after matches, just in general. Some companies have brought in the medical check sort of thing to make sure the wrestlers are fit and healthy. Because again, I think MVP, back when he was competing in WWE, I think he went for a general medical check and he found a heart deficiency or something.
Yeah, heart defect.
That could have been fatal if it hadn't been found. So, again, I still think it's a good idea having just general medical checks just to make sure that your wrestlers are fit and healthy, because you can never tell. There's that thing, you may feel fit and healthy, but you might have, like we say, some defect or something that you don't spot.
Well, wrestlers get concussion as well, don't they? I mean, Britt Baker in one of the pay-per-views, she got concussion in one of her matches, in one of her tag matches, so she was out sidelined for a few weeks while she recovered.
It's not just from weapon shots, you can get it from just moves outside the ring, again, like you say.
Or kick to the face, I think that was a kick to the face with her, I think.
So again, yeah, the protocols with that, concussion protocols that
but Cody better watch himself as well, because he's had too many head injuries.
So that's what I was saying before. It's like he's had the direct chair shot.
He's had diving off the head first onto the ramp.
Yeah. But again, I think what wrestler was? I'm sure there was another wrestler back in the day that was similar to that would put the body on the line, or was that just the ECW wrestlers?
ECW.
It's like there has to come a point. It's like, yeah, understand, you're doing it to give the fans a good experience, but at the same point, there's got to come a point where you've got to have that, again, a happy medium where it's like, yeah, entertaining the fans, but at the same point, not putting yourself in too much danger.
Well, there's going to be danger next week, as we found out on Dynamite, where Jon Moxley issued a challenge after he beat Michael Nakazawa to anyone of the locker room. He thought they were all scared of him, but Darby Allin accepted his challenge. The Nutter Darby Allin, they've got a match in a ladder match next week on Dynamite. The same Darby Allin who doesn't give an absolute flying, he doesn't give a really care basically what happens to him in matches. You know, he takes all the high risks. It's a bit like Jon Moxley sort of character, dangerous in the ring, hardcore style. So those two going at it, I think, is going to be my highlight of Dynamite next week, which is going to be a brutal match. So one of them will end up being bled in that match, or battered and bruised, basically.
So that's going to be intriguing when you're saying ladder match, because on the other side of it, there is going to be a ladder match on NXT next week as well. But again, they're doing overkill, because with War Games coming up, they're doing those matches of person from each team, winner gets the advantage, basically the 2-on-1, 3-on-2 advantage in the match. And NXT's way of doing it is having, because there's 2 War Game matches, one for the men, one for the women. They've had the women's one this week, and they're having one for the men next week. So again, I don't agree with that, because that just seems to be a bit too overkill. They just seem to be... They have things like this where it's like the special pay-per-views, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-views, too many of the matches. So, just in that case. So that seems to be an interesting point where you're now saying that AEW are having a ladder match next week, along with...
Yeah.
So, again, I highly doubt they're going to be on at the same points. But, again, it's intriguing one to see which one of those is going to come out on top. And yeah.
Another good thing about Dynamite, Luchasaurus made his return, helping Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt get good Dark Order beat him, but then the Evil Uno tried to recruit Marco Stunt after the match, but Jungle Boy shoved him away. That brought out, and then they got attacked, which brought out Luchasaurus again. Quality wrestler for his size, huge. The kicks he was putting out to all the little minions of the Dark Order, quality. So I think that'll be a feud, going forward. He was sidelined due to, hamstring injury a few weeks ago, He was meant to be out for another further 2 or 3 weeks, he said, but came back early. I think they needed him back, to be honest. I mean, they've been losing quite a lot. I don't think they've won the Jurassic Express, I don't think. Maybe they have, maybe I don't think they have. Still think they've not won a match. Marco Stunt gets a lot of criticism for his size, but you can see he has got the talent there in the ring. Yeah, alright, he's got no muscle whatsoever, but you can do Hurricane Ranas, you can hang it in the ring with him, so you don't have to be a big wrestler to compete in the ring. You've seen a lot of small wrestlers in the past who have actually made it, so look at the 1-2-3 kid at the time. Yeah, right, Marco Stunt's smaller than him, but he was similar, he weren't big.
Yeah, but again, that's a common misconception that, should we say, certain promoters have. Size. They have to...
WWE.
Basically, yeah. It's like, you have to look at them. The amount of... Well, seems wrong to be saying small wrestlers, but yeah, the more... Well, again, cruiserweight. The cruiserweight can put on some of the best matches on the card most weeks. Can. But it's just this infuriation with the fact of, well, no, we'll just promote more. You hire 200-pounders to 300-pounders, or your 6-footers. But again, they've got so many smaller wrestlers on the roster, should we say, and quite frankly, if you just had a card with them on, you'd probably find you get as good of, if not better, shows than what they have at the moment with what they're actually putting on. But again, that's just the way Vince is. He doesn't seem to want to push his cruiserweight stars that much. And yeah, as I say, it's just the...
Oh, it's the same like WCW, they didn't either. They had the best cruiserweight division in the business, and they didn't do anything with it because he focused more on the NWO.
Well, that was it. Everything was second fiddle to the NWO. Because by the end of it, it's like the majority of the roster were in the NWO, and that contributed quite a bit to their eventual downfall.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it was fine when it first started, but when you've got 30 to 40 members in a group, it just waters it down. Yeah, but at least he tried with groups. Again, that's another thing that Vince doesn't seem to like to do, is it?
Don't like groups or tag teams.
Exactly.
Which AEW have got right in both senses if the way you work it out. Inner Circle's doing well. You've got a bit of Dark Order, got Luchasaurus. Well, Jurassic Express, SCU. They were a two group, tag team, but then a group. For so they like tag teams and groups. But WWE just don't seem to. You have a group, but then you disband. Apart from the New Day, they tend to disband the groups. The Ministry didn't last very long back in the day. 6 months, was it?
If that, but again, that was sort of, I think that was cut short because of Taker picking up an injury around that time.
Yeah, well, that's cut short a group just because the main guy's got an injury. Maybe you should find a suitable replacement while the other one's out. That shouldn't make you disband the group just because the Undertaker got injured or end the group early. Maybe Ministry would have done better if they'd lasted longer.
But again, with that one, that didn't really do much for because again, groups can, if they work properly, can make stars out of people as well. And as far as I remember, the Ministry didn't really do much for anybody.
I don't agree with it. Wrestlers have to leave. Like Evolution, it was built to build Randy Orton and Batista, but I don't believe a group should always necessarily be that, really, to have a group. Yeah, it helps, it's good, but sometimes you have a group where stars already made.
An easier way to build stars. It's like get the rub of the green from...
Yeah, but when they're built, you shouldn't have to actually leave the group, really. Maybe staying there would help the group progress further if they're established.
But again, it's been going for years. I mean, you only have to look at the Horsemen. How many times did they disband and then
quite a few
reform? It's just a trait. They were doing it back in the territories as well. I think that's the general consensus with groups, not just from the current era. It's been happening back in the day as well. Of like, just have a group form so that up and coming stars can learn off the main guy and basically take it from there, sort of thing. But yeah, I see your point. Sometimes keeping groups together, but again, it can make it sell. When you say New Day, it just seems to be at the moment. It's like there doesn't seem to be the fact that New Day is going to break up, but it's the fact of, like you've alluded to, they've been a group for 5-6 years, maybe longer.
Way longer.
And it's just like, it just seems they have got sell. I mean, okay, from a good point of view, when Kofi won the WWE Championship, there were people jumping to the conclusion, oh well, Big E turning heel or something, but they kept them together. But again, maybe that was more the fact of Kofi was, let's face it was never billed as being a WWE champion. It was just one of those things to go with. I think Vince, for one time, wanted to give the fans something to be happy about.
Do you reckon WWE missed Dean Ambrose? Well, John Moxley, do you reckon he missed him?
Bit of both, and I mean, you just look at the way they treated him. His heel turn was a disaster. When he first burst onto the main roster with the Shield, it looked like his heel turn was going to happen then, and he gave it to Seth Rollins instead. It just like they never really treated him proper anyway.
Is he the best of the Shield, would you say?
Wow, just from the way you look at the way they promoted Rollins and Reigns, the fact that Reigns was always going to be the golden boy, and now Seth seems to be the new poster child.
You can't stay off Twitter.
Yeah, but at the same point, Reigns is a bit like that as well. It's like, with those two, you'd be surprised if they aren't going to be WWE lifers, basically.
Oh, you can see that.
But I think Moxley's always been that sort of thing where it's like he doesn't exactly conform to the WWE machine, because you only have to take the emphasis that WWE have on social media. I mean, a lot of companies do use social media, but it's just that fact of
we didn't even want it.
Yeah, basically, I've not been on his Twitter feed in ages, but basically
He's got nothing on it.
there's basically only one tweet on there at one point, and it was just along the lines of, I've been told to have Twitter. Basically, it was saying, he didn't say it in many words, but he was saying it the fact of, yeah, W told me to have a Twitter account, so here you go. But that was it. Never posted anything, so it's always been that thing of, he's never wanted to conform to what Vince or WWE want.
I did hear something from Renee Young, I think it was the other week, last week or sometime. She actually did say that when they're both at home together, he cannot stop going on about wrestling. That's all he talks about. When she can be watching their programs, he comes in, wrestling. She goes, yeah, sometimes he's a bit of a downtime for wrestling, but Moxley, he's wrestling obsessed. It's all he talks about, how to improve wrestling, just talk wrestling basically. So his heart is in, it's in wrestling still. And you can see that in AEW as well. When he was in WWE, he was disillusioned. He wanted out. He wanted fresh ideas. So joining AEW, he's got that creative freedom, which he didn't have in WWE.
Well, like I say, he was never the archetypical type WWE superstar. It's a case of AEW seems to fit his style because I don't think he ever got away from being the independent star sort of thing.
Yeah, but WWE didn't work him right either.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying with that one, Bob. Just saying it sort of goes in itself. WWE is stuck in its way. It's not gonna give the ball to someone who, because I say he just did his own thing, and again they're stuck in the ways. They're not gonna really give the. I mean, okay, they tried him as WWE champion, but again, that just seemed to be there just for the fact of, let's rush the Shield triple threat through, which just didn't work anyway. And he just got lost in the shuffle as champion. It's like, he's WWE champion, but it didn't really feel like a big thing. Just seems to be the fact, all the other members of Shield have been WWE champions, so here you go, Ambrose, here's your turn. And it's like, yep, you've been WWE champion, so yeah, you're not having another shot, basically.
Well, he was setting his mind on going. He offered him a big money deal as well, and he still turned it down. Unlike other wrestlers, he sets his mind to something. He wants out. He's leaving. We've got to respect him for that, to be honest. He's his own person. He's not just about the money. If he's not happy somewhere, he's not going to stay.
As I say, it's more the indie side in him. He just wanted to go back to more freedom of creativity.
He wanted that, but he wanted to try and build a company up as well, I think, in AEW. That's why Chris Jericho was offered a deal and he joined. He weren't happy, obviously, where his match was with Kevin Owens on the card. But then he realised, I can't do anything else here. And that's when when AEW came running, offered him a deal, he was like, yeah, I'll join him, because it'd be nice to, on his CV, that he's helped build a company up from the ground. To be honest, Jericho was the main part of AEW getting to where it is, because a wrestler like Chris Jericho, a legend in the business, signing for
hopefully
him.
it's third time lucky now, because as you say, the WCW element got lost in the shuffle with that because of NWO and the fact he was more cruiserweight.
He's not on this one though. He's actually higher up.
That's what I'm saying. Third time lucky. But at the same point, disillusioned with it now, but he still had a little bit of success. I mean, he had a couple of world titles. I mean, obviously he won't go crowing about the fact that he's the first undisputed champion anymore, but again, first undisputed champion, first AEW champion.
Yeah.
Seems to like first. But yeah.
Vince didn't help matters in that situation anyway, by erasing his stuff on the network, from Chris Jericho. He weren't happy that he actually went to AEW, was he, Vince?
That's Vince. He'll have seen it as being stabbed in the back, probably.
He didn't like Moxie going either. Moxie had to actually say he's taking time out to actually get out of his contract. He actually didn't say he was going to AEW because Vince wouldn't allow him to go. So Moxie had to think outside the box to say that. He wants to try other promotions, time out, take other promotions, indie scene, to get out.
Yeah, but again with that, but there must have been something in the back of Vince's mind that he could possibly go.
I don't think he had an idea. I think he believed what he was saying.
All I can say is Moxley must be a very good actor, because I don't believe for a second Vince would let someone out of the contract because let's face it, at the moment.
Now he wouldn't.
Well, no, because you just look at there's more stars. I mean, Sin Cara this week wanted out of his contract, and he's been refused.
Is it right to refuse someone out of the contract? If they want to buy it out, is it right? And to add even more months on through injuries to add it on?
Maybe the adding months on is a bit wrong. But again, you can look at it with other sports. Contracts are contracts sometimes. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Vince can't tie them down. If you want to buy out their contract, they should be allowed to buy it out and leave.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, to say it does happen with other sports, even if it does seem a bit wrong that they can just sign new contracts and then... Yeah, but at the same point, it's different with other sports in that it's like this was a fact of a new company coming on their rise and new things. It's not the same as other sports where it's like, I want to move to a different team. That team will have been established for years, sort of thing. But yeah, again, it all comes down to what's in the contracts as well. We don't really know what Vince gets him to sign sometimes. I mean, okay, he's had it in the past where he's tried to have no compete clauses in people's contracts, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look back to when Lesnar originally left. He supposedly had a no compete clause in his contract for, is it a decade or something?
Yeah.
And then obviously he moved on to wrestling in Japan about a year or so after he left the company.
Yeah.
So again, there is ways of getting out of contracts. Yeah. Vince is just being Vince, just trying to stop wrestlers from going to other promotions.
To be honest, he's got too many wrestlers on his books anyway.
Well, yeah. And yeah, too many wrestlers. Even with too many shows, you can't fit everybody in. So yeah, I know what you're saying. It just seems to the fact of just having wrestlers for the sake of having wrestlers. So there's a lot that either don't get put on shows or are just basically there to take squash losses basically week in, week out. So yeah.
Anything else to add?
Can't think of anything else.
I think one of the backstage people in WWE have left now, haven't they? Today. Something that I read it before. Someone who worked WWE has actually left.
Well, again, I mean, it's more the backstage one seems to be getting away with it, because there is some that are sort of, and I don't think it's the first backstager to go. I'm not sure on the backstage one, but reportedly, going back to a couple of weeks ago, the racist thing with Jordan Miles, apparently he's quit WWE, or there's thought that he's
that was it,
WWE.
Jordan Miles, yeah.
But again, that doesn't really come as a shock with what's been going on.
No.
And yeah, just have to wait and see how that one transpires. I mean, again, there was reports weeks ago that Vince was thinking of firing him anyway. But again, that wouldn't have come across as good anyway.
Well, if he's gone, it doesn't bode good for WWE, does it?
Yeah, but again, Vince will probably still try and put a PR spin on it. The fact of, well, he left, I didn't get rid of him, basically.
Yeah, he probably gave him an ultimatum.
Yeah. But again, it's that thing, speaking out against the company, it seems to be frowned upon anyway. The second you speak out, it's like your days are numbered anyway.
I've heard wrestlers saying it's like a prison in WWE. It can be like a prison.
But again, that comes onto the social media side of it. I don't know if you agree with the fact of try and keep... I know they say, yeah, social media can help to push storylines through, but I think social media just causes more problems than it's worth half the time.
And it's like a prison though, where in the back though, when they're in backstage, it can be like a prison then. And I think at one point, I think one of the wrestlers said you have to actually watch the monitor screen. You're told to actually watch the monitor screen when matches are going on or something.
Again, Vince is old school as well. He just doesn't seem to want to come into the modern era. But again, we can sit here talking about WWE's faults until the cats come home.
I know we can, yeah.
I think really we just need to end the WWE discussion.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, that's gone for today.
Is there any other promotions that we need to add, or is that it?
Nothing major happened in the other promotions, to be honest. I've mentioned a bit of what happened in Impact. Dynamite Ali got beat up by Awesome Kong. Like I said before, she's been beating women up. She was getting interviewed by Tony Schiavone on the ramp. Awesome Kong came from behind, beat her up. You had Brandy Rhodes, then a bit of her hair got up. I think she's just going through the women's division, seeing her dominance, basically building her up, her own dominance.
Yeah, but that's just basically the women's division as a whole at the moment. Obviously,
there's a work in progress. It's got better.
There's a couple of companies that are trying to do that at the moment.
It's got better, the women's division, I have to say, but there's still work to be made in it. But it's like the Emi Sakura match versus Riho at the pay-per-view for the title. Teacher versus student. I mean, teacher Emi Sakura at the beginning of the match, you could actually see the emotion because she actually trained Riho in Japan. So you could see the emotion. The match was actually a decent match for women. They've improved the women's matches slightly. It's good to have Riho as the champion. But eventually, she'll get a challenge who's actually going to beat. I think they want Britt Baker eventually to win the women's title, to beat her for it eventually. But I don't think she's ready for that, though, to be honest. I just think she needs to work more on her matches. Yeah, she's not bad, but there's still work to be done.
Again, it's the same with a lot of the companies that are either just started or trying to rebuild. It's the fact that they all seem to go with the same mantra. Build the men's division up firstly, and the women just seem to be built up in a longer period, shall we say.
Well, Kenny Omega's had a big input in the women's division. He's actually recruited a few of the women from Japan when he was there. He's got a thought in the women's division. There was a rumour actually he was going out with Rio at one point. Whether he still is, I don't know, but that was a rumour spouting around.
But again, rumours are...
Rumours are rumours.
Yeah. I would imagine something like that. I'm not saying it isn't true, but let's face it, we live in an era now where you basically know who's dating who.
Yeah.
So if it is happening and they're managing to just keep it under wraps and fair place, but again, as I say, it's not really a big deal now having wrestlers dating each other.
I forgot about this. Did like the segment on Dynamite where you had the Young Bucks fighting with Santana and Ortiz backstage. You had a little bit of a comedy element where you opened the door of the toilet, so one of the toilets fighting, and you had Orange Cassidy just stood there with his shades leaning against the wall, and you had, I don't know if it was Santana or Ortiz, one of them looked and slowly closed the door. That was a bit of a funny element to it. It's like, oh, I don't want to see nothing in there. Close the door, leave him in there. Just randomly stood there. But then again, Orange Cassidy can do anything he wants. He's just that cool wrestler you'd like to face. Because he must have the easiest matches going. I mean, he is loved by the fans. See some of his indie wrestling. I mean, the small, slow kicks, soft kicks, soft smacks to the chest. But he can wrestle. He's good athletic. Doing flips in the air with his hands in his pockets. I don't think there's many wrestlers who can say they can do that. Would you agree?
Personally, not seen it from anybody before. But again, yeah, showboating in a sense, but there's always room for that. Anything else from any other promotion that ain't AEW?
Or WWE?
Yeah. Just anything else, basically, or is that about it?
I think basically that is about it, to be honest. I think we've covered a lot of it. Yeah, I think, Impact, talk about Impact's one match, which is going to be on Impact next week. Number one contenders shot for the world title. Michael Elgin versus Rick Swann versus Tessa Blanchard versus Moose versus Dogan versus Brian Cage in elimination battle royal type match. So to determine number one contender for the Impact World title to face Sami Callihan. Is Tessa Blanchard gonna eventually be facing Sami Callihan for the world title? We're gonna see a first women world champion. Is that on the cards?
It's been a long time coming.
It has, and she can handle it with the men. Then again, a lot of the women in the indie scene can handle it with the guys as well, so she's not the only one. But they've moulded her into the Chyna-esque, but more of a wrestler. Chyna was big, strong, but she wasn't exactly, I wouldn't say, a pure wrestler. At least you've got Tessa Blanchard, who's big built, but she is actually a wrestler as well.
I mean, technically wouldn't be the first female to be a world champion promotion. I don't know if anybody else tried it, but Lucha did have a female world champion, so it wouldn't be a first. But I suppose if you look at it as a promotion that is
full time, basically.
Yeah, because obviously they just went in seasons, and basically they, unless you could find the shows on the internet, I think they were only really screened on the El Rey network anyway, so Lucha weren't exactly a show that you could watch as freely as some of the other ones. So for the mainstream, it'd probably be a first. But again, there might be another promotion.
Maybe,
that's done it.
If there's no promotion that's done it, please comment down below and let us know. They've got now we've got a number one. We had a number one contenders match actually on Impact this week as well, which I also forgot. You had Trey, Vahit Raju, Aiden Prince, Brent Banks, Willie Mack, and P.T. Williams for the X Division title, number one contender. Trey won that, so eventually, timing of his choice, he'll be facing Ace Austin for the X Division title, which Ace Austin just recently won at Bound for Glory. That's it for that. Any other wrestling news you'd like to add?
No,
the games have been spouted for wrestling still. NWA's game, Retromania, which I think is going to be out next year. You got the AEW game being spouted out. It's going to be an N64 No Mercy type game, which apparently the team who made No Mercy are interested in creating the new AEW game when it eventually comes released, but that's not confirmed.
Yeah, but again, unless that's been in the works since prior to the TV show, I think really you got to watch it bringing out a wrestling game so soon, because you only have to look at WWE's versions over the years when they've... especially when...
It won't be soon.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. As long as they're not going to bring it out, try and get it out before Christmas, because otherwise they're just basically not setting it up to fail, but you only have to look at this year's 2K edition.
Never bought it. I was about to, but since I've heard bad reviews, I didn't bother buying it.
I mean, they have said that the patches have come out, but I think there's still...
You shouldn't have to do patches, though. The game should be already tested before it comes out. You shouldn't need to do a patch. You should check it before it comes out and correct the faults. I mean, people are paying the hard-earned money to pay for a game, which is like, what, £64 for the standard version. That's not including the special editions, which are around about £80. But AEW will, get a game eventually. I think it should rather than later. Kenny Omega's a big gaming fan, so I think he's the driving force for them to have a game. So that'd be interesting. Not just WWE 2K anymore. It's not about you. It can be a bit, just WWE 2K every single year.
But
I mean, back in the day, you had a choice of games. You had ECW had three games out, I think. You had WCW games, WWE games back in the day. You had the Japanese games. Even Impact created one game.
It's a thing, though, isn't it, though? Because you only have to look at all the other sports. I mean, obviously, I know it's different because with your football ones, you can combine all the leagues. There's no real issue with that. I know what you're saying, different promotions with the wrestling.
What I would have liked them to do is create another Legends of Wrestling game with the territories again. That would have been nice. On updated consoles. That would have been a nice thing to do. But I think they've stopped them games, but would have been nice. Anything else to add? I think we've covered most of it for this week and all the news.
Yep.
If we've missed anything that you'd like us to add, or you don't agree with anything, or you do agree with what we've said, comment down below.
And like, share, subscribe, comments.
And we'll see you in the next video, which will be next week.